not going to provide security for you and your community. My name is Julie. I'm tech lead at Magna. Please come find me and let's chat. Thank you very much.
We think there's going to be 12 million. We think there's going to be 12 billion tokens. And, why is this important? Why should they really care? So what we think is there's basically two sides in the world. There's the founders and the investors, and there's the customers and employees. And the reason why
a nonprofit organization supporting the blockchain-based projects with a framework of legality, compliance, and risk management.
Can you go to the next slide? So it's absolutely no secret that we're facing a global blood cancer epidemic. Indeed, in the US alone, 186,000 people are diagnosed with a different form of blood cancer every year. And this translates into a patient dying every single 9 minutes of blood cancer in the US. Now, one way in which we can cure these people of blood cancer is through a process known as stem cell transplantation therapy. And that's when you take stem cells from a healthy donor and you engraft them into a sick patient. Now,
blockchain. So, but some blockchain is somehow related to elements of the metaverse. For example, digital assets. You already know about fungible tokens, non-fungible tokens because you're.
These records are immutable, they're never going to go anyplace. Now we're able to do the next piece of this. Piece one is we have a digitized asset, we can trade it, it's a one-for-one. That's probably not a security. But the second piece is now we can fractionalize it. And so now we can take this property that we're in today, let's call it a $250 million asset, and we can each own a proportionate share.
There's executing these contracts for smallholders or a micro-insurer who then could embed the drought coverage in their loans. Lending and insurance go hand in hand. These guys can only lend to the farmers because they can embed drought insurance. It's actually a requirement by their bigger bank. Difficult in our regulatory framework, full decentralization. But what we did was we did partial decentralization, and we started with a decentralized data infrastructure that we spun out, and that is.
I completely agree with you, and I always emphasize that it's so important that we keep scientific standards that are developed within the WMO's umbrella in the core of these emerging markets so that we actually get the impact out of this and we do make a more sustainable planet and we don't, unconsciously fool ourselves into a potentially doing things in the opposite of what we intend, right? And
I've heard a lot of great things about Nitro, but want to give you the floor to let you explain, what Nitro is, how it's evolving, and where it's going to go from here.
Absolutely. So Arbitrum Nitro is our new roll-up stack, our new software stack that powers Arbitrum 1 and Arbitrum Nova, our two chains today. And a few weeks ago, the very last day of August, which was exactly a 1-year anniversary of the launch of Arbitrum 1, we migrated Arbitrum 1 to the Nitro stack. And the analogy I like to give is you imagine you have an airplane that's flying. That was our
V2 white paper, but there are a lot of details to fill in and still significant research to be done. I'm pleased to say, however, that we've made very significant strides over the next year. I'm going to tell you about some of those. Now, my presumption is that not everyone here is familiar with the problem of transaction delivery and with MEV, a phenomenon discussed in the fireside chat that we just heard, in which we coined a term for the opportunities that validators have essentially to take money from users. We called it minor extractable value. Some now refer to it as maximal extractable value, but the acronym is the same.
The Web3 world has gotten big. We're interested in its excellence. All of the things that I did 25 years ago involving Mosaic and the internet and HTML, all this kind of stuff was presumed at the fact that the world become disaggregated, that everyone had equal access, all the stuff, all that religion and stuff. And we believed it, and I really believed it. And if you look at the structure today of what you think of as Web 2, it's highly concentrated around relatively proprietary systems. And that's not what we started off in. So if you look at it in the arc of my career over 20 years, the same thing could happen to you. And you go, oh my God, that would be terrible. But let me tell you what might happen. I mean, this is not a prediction. There are economic benefits and returns to scale. And you have really clever entrepreneurs who are very, very smart. They're moving quickly, they create value, and they can begin to merge and acquire things, right? And there are also technical benefits to centralization. Because of the Sybil effect, the truly distributed systems spend the vast majority, estimates are up to 90% of their time, making sure there isn't an interloper in the protocol, right? So and there are technical solutions to that. So you've got a system where it spends an awful lot of time making sure there aren't other people around. It's perfectly possible that that could lead to a small number of high-end, large players.
Our point of contact in order to introduce true generation in terms of those cargo elements that we want to protect. And with their power in terms of the decentralized Oracle network, we can multiply and scale very fast.
Make sure by the time we choose, we are going to help sustain NFTs to sustain. If NFTs are here to stay, then the world is going to owe a lot to Bitcoin.
Thank you.
Tokens and the non-fungible tokens, and based on the assets types, we can support the transfer, swap, and all the NFT operations you can imagine in Zikri protocol. And the other
gives him moral values, and that community uses its cryptocurrency to crowdfund territory and network it together. That's kind of what a network state is. And here's like a visual of one that has, 1,729,314 people.
Protocols with cross-chain interoperability. I can have a lending protocol where a user deposits funds on one chain and then borrows against that collateral on another chain. Those are developed by Chain Labs. And so at the top here, we have the CCHN program for Bridge, which is the part that applications directly.
I found that everybody here is building a bigger vision. So we're trying to solve a little bit larger, tiny problem. How do we build smart contract even smarter? And also, what is KN3 network? We are a trusted, and the product that we roll out is mainly, so it's called the multi-chain user behavior witness service. In order to empower those on-chain, any of the NFTs collected is containing this number, those characters. You will see it listed here, and the token name and the ENS, but that you can dive into yourself. So I just, again, say my governance, and then you can dive in another one and check the social status. Yeah, so moshmesh.kn3.xyz, just go to here and see what you can find about yourself on the web.
So this is using the UUPS pattern. So any contract
drag your asset in, and now you can pull in whatever you want into your game with a simple URL. It's like really, really simple. So if anybody uses Unity, you'll really understand why that's nice, versus having to like configure an API handle with calls you've got the prefab.
A modular blockchain is a blockchain that fully outsources at least one component to an external chain. And basically it means it does not handle that component. So what are the 4 components of a blockchain? We have settlement, we have execution, we have data availability, we have consensus. Execution is typically what you might think of as like a roll-up or an L2, something like Arbitrum or Optimism is doing that execution. Roll-ups that are enabled by Celestia as first-class citizens. Everyone can build out their own application-specific chain or their own application-specific roll-up, and they're not sharing the execution environment with everyone else. A great example of this is DYDX. They moved away from...
Not like people went to Uniswap to gamble. You know, they went and they wanted to go buy these coins that were like Shiba Inu coin or like, you know, Dogecoin coin and like, you know, speculate on that. Like, Shiba Inu coin is the one that's wrong here. It's not Uniswap. And so speculation is part of the industry.
I heard was the major milestone as it was Chainlink's very first non-EVM chain integration. Can you speak to the role that Oracle's like Chainlink play in enabling this, you know, trust minimized products and services we're talking about?
Oracles are the core part of what makes all the sophisticated parts of DeFi work. You can't have a lending protocol without an Oracle. You can't run derivatives or any other kind of interesting pieces without an Oracle.
You've been here since the very beginning. Maybe tell a little bit about the founding story of Chainlink and how you even got into Web3 and came up with the idea.
Sure, yeah. I've always been, I think the idea of the distributed ledger was always very powerful to me once I started to grasp that beyond monetary purposes. I think it, like,